Dope is what flows in this fam's DNA. Dope is what flows in this fam's DNA.
What's good, everybody? It's your boy Warren Shaw, and welcome to another episode of Dope Interviews. I'm so excited to be back here with you, and if you love dope content, you know you're in the right place. Rich Kid Clothing is a big sponsor of the Dope Interviews brand, so shout out to them for being a part of our 19 Media Group family. But as we're talking about clothing and apparel, I've got one of the dopest designers out there when it comes to clothing and apparel out there. My man is the lead designer and CEO of Bungee Oblečení, Darrell Alston. What's good, brother? How you feeling?
I'm just, first of all, I was excited when I heard you say Dope Interviews. That's the first thing. That's catchy. And then I'm just happy that you said Albuceni correctly. Like I'm just really excited about that. Thank you.
Nah, brother, we are in a vibe. It's a good space, and I'm just excited. You have one hell of a story, and I'm excited to kind of share that story with our audience and our listeners as well. So we'll kind of cut to the chase, right? I mean, listen, brother, you've been a rapper, right?
Yeah.
You've been incarcerated. You've been in the drug game a little bit as well, too, as a result of that as well. And now you're out here doing amazing, positive things now, as a designer. Just talk to me a little bit about how all that has kind of played into who you are and what you're doing right now.
Okay, well, my whole career started as a rap artist. I started rapping when I was about 12. And, I pretty much was around all the superstars at the time, went on plenty of tours. I got signed to a couple major labels, distribution deals, etc. And, I'm learning, or I had to learn at the time, that you may look like you have a lot, but most of the time you didn't. So it was like, I didn't really have any money, and I was like trying to figure my way through. So I started using, my advance money that I would get, and I would just start purchasing drugs, and I'll go around the neighborhood and sell with my friends, and then go to the studio and try to use that money to go towards my music career. And that's pretty much how I got started in that.
Wow. So, I mean, it's crazy, right? And to me, we're all not say victims, not victims. That's the wrong word. We are all products. We're all products of our various experiences. And it's a matter of how you utilize those experiences to kind of propel you to whatever's next for your ultimate path. Right. So from what I've seen, Daryl, hip hop culture's played a big role into your philosophy. Who were some of your biggest hip hop influences growing up?
When I was a really young guy, I used to love LL. LL Cool J was like the ultimate. I walked around with the can go, the pant leg up, all that. When I was in elementary school, I was doing it, and I started liking, Jay-Z, Nas, Biggie, and stuff like that. That's kind of like the era that I like really found myself. And the one thing that was difficult for me was understanding the difference between the two. As an adult, I know that hip hop and rap in general is just show business, and at the time, it was taught to me that it was authentic. If you didn't do it, you don't speak about it. So it's like, it wasn't until years later that I realized that, it wasn't what I thought that it was. And I feel like a fool now, because I really was sold. I really believed what I was hearing, and I really believed these artists. And I didn't realize that it was just show business. I mean, it's no different than watching Casino or watching, Scarface. It's acting.
Right. Who are some of the people, when you were rapping on that side of things, like who are some of the artists maybe that other people may know and that you kind of interacted in? And when did you first pick up the pen to even kind of begin that career?
Well, I actually jumped into music when one of my friends were actually on the street, just like freestyling to like beats with his box radio. And then I just started freestyling. I started sounding like a fool with them. And, we just started rapping. And then all of a sudden I just started taking it seriously. And I started writing my raps, and then we started doing house parties. And then once I started to realize that I was good, I'm like, well, maybe I need to try to get to New York and try to get on. And one thing led to another. And the next thing you know, I'm on a record label, and then they put my record out and getting played on the radio. And it just started to skyrocket from there. But I actually told you already that LL Cool J was like one of my favorite guys. And I ended up having the opportunity to meet him. And, once I started to like get out there and start to open up for different people and start to see what that celebrity life was like, I got addicted. You know what I mean? It was like, the thing of it is like, I remember the first time that I actually got a lot of radio play, and I was living in St. Louis, and I ended up getting a lot of radio play. So when I actually went out on the stage, everyone in the audience knew my song, and I got a high from it. It was just like, oh my God, like I wrote this rap in my living room, and all these people were singing this song back to me. So it was like I was addicted from that point on. So it was like every person that I met from that point on, it was just a pleasure to be there, but I was absorbing the moment. And, you know, everything was just so great for me at that particular time, because I was like, and it seemed like every time I would finish an album for whatever record label that I was on, it seemed like I would go to jail right after I finished the album.
Dang.
Or right as soon as I started getting my buzz in Philadelphia, I would go to prison. And then, you know, I mean, it was just nonstop. Like it happened to me 3 different times. It was crazy.
Man, that is wild. So as you're talking about being kind of in the rap game, so to speak, and being around celebrities, since you've been out, obviously you've started this great, amazing brand, and celebrities have kind of latched on. I want to touch on really quickly as well, too, one of the great Hall of Fame boxers, you know, Bernard Hopkins, and his influence and kind of what you're doing with your brand right now. How did that relationship kind of formulate?
That relationship was funny because I had a boxing shoe. I actually made a boxing sneaker, and I was influenced by Bernard because I was actually at the same prison that he was at. They had this big mural of him in the prison. So I used to see his face every day when I was going into the gym. And I designed a boxing sneaker because I used to watch him on the wall all the time.
Right.
And one day I had these boxing sneakers on. I'm in the barber shop, and a friend of mine comes in and he says, yo, I have a meeting with Bernard tomorrow. He may like those boxing sneakers. You want me to try to see if he wants to meet you? So he ended up reaching out to Bernard. Bernard said that he would meet me. And the next day, I walk into this restaurant, and I was supposed to get the last 3 minutes of their meeting. And as soon as I walk in the restaurant, me and my friend, the first thing he says is, where's the sneaker guy? And I'm like, oh, man, I thought I was supposed to get the last 3 minutes. He was like, nah, I want to talk to you first. So I'm like, oh, man. So I didn't have my delivery right. I didn't know what I was going to say. So I kind of just went to the table, and I just started pulling my shoes out. And, you know, at that time, I was like really, really in the early stages. So I didn't really know what I was doing yet. Mm-hmm. So he pulls the stuff out, and he's just like, Gabby. And Gabby is the guy that owns the restaurant. He's like, does it look like I would wear anything like this? And Gabby was like, nah, man, I don't see you wearing that shit. And he was like, yo, meeting's over. And I'm just like, yo, damn. Like, I didn't even get a chance to even tell you about the brand yet. Like, how's the meeting over already? And he was like, listen, man, I'm not interested. He was like, I'm too old for this. I would never wear this. And I'm just like, all right, well, can I just ask you one question before you end the meeting? Because it was really only about 35 seconds before he cut me off.
Damn.
And he was like, yeah. He was like, what's up? I was like, I just want to know how you went from being in prison to being on parole to being where you are today. Because as of right now, I'm actually in those same shoes. I created this brand while I was incarcerated. I'm on parole right now. Can you give me any kind of advice? Because I just really want to get off parole and try to start my own business. And he was like, you created all this in prison? And I was like, yes, I just came home. I was only home for like 3 months when I met him. And I was home long enough to get my samples made. That was it. So I was like, yeah, I made all this stuff in prison. He was like, how? And I started explaining everything that I did and how I was doing it. And then he was like, yo, the meeting's over, because he was going to meet with my friend. He cut all that off and was like, listen, sit down for a second. So I sat down with him. He started asking me about what prison I was at. Both prisons that I was at, he was at. So we had a lot in common. He knew a lot of the same people as me. And we were just sitting there for hours talking. And then we got up and left from the restaurant and went over to the gym. And he was like, listen, whatever it is that you want me to wear, let me get it. I'll put it on, you know, take whatever photos that you want, whatever videos that you want, free of charge.
Wow.
I'm just like, okay. So, you know, I put sneakers on, I put shirts on him. He's making videos talking about how good the stuff was when he didn't even like it. Like, he was just like, I'm going to support you, but I don't like it. So I'm like, okay. So when I was leaving out of the gym that day, you know, I'm thinking it's my first and last time meeting with B-Hop, and that's it. It was a pleasure. He was a good guy. And he was just like, let me get your phone number before you go. And I'm like, for what, B? Like, you're not going to call me. Like, not even going to answer the call. I already know how it is. I've been around plenty of celebrities. I know how y'all work.
Word.
No, he was like, just let me get your number. He said, you said you wanted my help to get off parole, right? And I was like, yeah, like, I'm not asking you to make any calls or anything, but I just wanted to know how you navigated from, you know, from parole to being free. Because, like, when you're on parole, it's a totally different thing. Like, your parole officer is not there for your best interest. Like, The
Word.
parole officer is there to send you back to prison.
Yeah.
So,
and that's why they talk to you the way they do, right?
That was my experiences anyway. I can't say for everyone, but from my experience, my parole officer was trying to find ways to send me back. So the very next day after I left Bernard, my phone rings at like 3:30 in the morning. No exaggeration. I'm like, who the hell's calling me at 3:30 in the morning? And I look up and it says no ID on the phone. So I'm like, I better answer it because it looks like it could be something crazy. So I'm like, hello? And all I hear is, yo, get the sheets out your ass. Get up. It's time to do. I'm like, who? What? Who is this? He was like, it's B-Hop. Get the sheets out your ass. I'm like, yo, first of all, the sheets aren't in my ass, man. What are you talking about?
Like, pause, B-Hop, pause, man.
Like, stop saying that. I'm not flossing. Like, I'm not flossing right now. Stop it. He was like, look, you wanted to know how to get off a roll? You need to get off your ass and get up and start making moves happen. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. You need to be up before everyone else. Get your mind right, get your body right, go exercise, go do something. And to this day, that man calls me every day.
That's what's
and that was a couple years. That was like what, 5 years ago. He talks to me every single day.
That's love, Daryl. I mean, and that's kind of like the old adage, like people sometimes they invest in brands, but people invest in people, right? And more than anything else. And that's what happened here. You know, B-Hop was like, yo, person that has similar experiences, was impressed by how you did what you did, and was like completely shifted what the original process was. Because if you were some whatever, maybe hoity-toity designer, went to school and whatever like that, maybe that story is not as authentic and doesn't resonate with them like that. Yeah, I mean, that's bugged
he
out.
definitely was feeling me just because of the 2 prisons that we were at, and he experienced the same thing I did. So I already knew what it was.
It's notated, like in some of the PR stuff, my guy, that you know you started to learn how to design like watching YouTube. Now, what gave you that inspiration? Like, you know what, I'm gonna go this route and just kind of figure out and even get good at it utilizing the YouTube platform.
It's funny because you're the first person to ever ask me that, and I talk about this all the time.
Wow.
What happened was, you know, when I first went to prison, there was no Facebook, there was no Instagram, there was no YouTube, it was none of that. It was just nothing. So when I came home, I started to watch my daughter, and I started to see everything that she was doing, and she was always going on YouTube. And I remember she ended up going on YouTube for some kind of tutorial on something. I'm like, well, what is this? She started to explain to me what YouTube was. And I'm like, so you can look up anything, you know what I mean, to get a video? And she was like, yeah. I'm like, oh, okay. So I started looking up haircuts because I was a barber. You know, when I first came home from prison, I was a barber. And I started looking up haircut ideas. And I'm like, well, damn, you know, maybe I can Google search how to design a shoe. I Google searched it, and every single thing that I needed was on there. It taught me how to design, taught me what to design on, taught me how to do it inside and out, what the proper ways of doing a tech pack was. It even gave different ideas on how to find a manufacturer. So every single thing that I needed was on YouTube. That's why I call it YouTube University. I never went to college. I went to YouTube University.
Oh man, that's amazing. That's a phrase. You got to put that on a shirt, man. YouTube, Google would be proud of that for sure. Do you remember? I mean, I know I'm sure it's a lot, but do you remember the video, one of the first videos, or maybe the video that impacted you the most, that taught you the most about to kind of get to where you are right now? It's like, oh damn, and you was really like kind of scribing down whatever was said in that video.
Well, I think what it was, the very first thing that got my attention was just the actual sketching part. Being as I taught myself how to draw while I was incarcerated, I was doing it all wrong. You know what I mean? Like the proper etiquette was not what I was doing. So that's the first thing that I learned. And then the second thing that I learned was just like online marketing. That was the first video that I saw that made me be like, oh, wow, like I can reach this many people if I just post it and put hashtags on it. Like I didn't know any of that existed. Like you got to remember, I'm coming home from prison. I don't know what any of this stuff is. So just me experimenting and you know, putting my story out there, or as a matter of fact, my sneakers out there, that's what generated, you know, the beginning of the success for me. And then the next thing you know, I ran into an investor that came into the shop, and he blessed me, man. That was the beginning of my stuff.
Yeah, that's a vibe as well too, bro. So things are going well, man. I'm going to take you to Shark Tank right quick. I don't know if you watch that show or whatever,
of course.
So what is your customer acquisition? Like, how do you get people to be knowledgeable about the brand?
Well, first of all, you know, we have Instagram. Bungee at Bungee Brand, and then we have our website, www.bungeebrand.com. And most of the time, the stuff that I do is word of mouth. We've done so many TV shows. I've been on the news on a lot of places. I actually just did the Nick Cannon show. It's going to air in April. So it's like people are finding out about me through that. Because again, you have to understand, I'm still new at what I'm doing. Fortunately, I have a good team around me, and they're actually teaching me a lot on how to get my stuff out there. But I'm used to being a rap artist, coming up with a song, and then we have to get out into the streets, start hanging up posters and flyers. Right. I'm used to that. So for me, going from that to just doing something and then putting it online, it feels like I'm cheating the system. You know what I mean? I feel like I'm supposed to get out in the street and do things. So that's the reason why I do my community service. I go out, I volunteer my time, and I talk to kids. I go to high schools. I've done seminars in colleges. So it's like I just try to give back that way and reach out to the people that way. So between the community service, the online ads, that's all ways of getting people to do it. Now, one thing that I can say that was a very false statement, and I have to say this because I've never touched on this in any other interview. The one thing that I used to hear a lot when I was incarcerated was, if you know how to sell drugs, you know how to run a business.
Wow. True.
It's true, but at the same time, it's not.
Okay.
Because when I heard that, I'm like, oh, I was very good at selling drugs. So I know for a fact I'm going to be incredible in doing business. The one thing that I didn't understand is, depending on how big your business is, that philosophy doesn't work. Because if you're just doing like an around the way business and you're selling to people around your way, yeah, you can do that. But if you're to the point where you're getting investors and you're sitting at the table with CEOs and other C-suite people, you can't go in there with your drug dealer tendencies. You know what I mean? Like, you can't, like the one thing that I had to learn very quickly was the fact that when you get investors, you're no longer your own boss. You have investors now. So you work with someone. You're not the only person. If you're dealing with some investors that are C-suite people that don't know the street life, you can't go at them like, yo, what's up? Because it'll come across, aggressive. It'll come across like you have an ego. It'll come across like you're defensive. You know what I mean? So if someone says something that you don't like, if you're selling drugs, and you're out in the street, you can come across like, what? Who are you talking to? You can't do that. So it's like, I think that's like a really, really big misconception. And I just want people to understand that, if you've been in that lifestyle, you can't bring those rules and those things that you used to remember into this. Because in the very beginning, it was very difficult for me to decipher someone coming at me and someone coming at me. You know what I mean? So it's like when I'm in the boardroom, someone can come at me. And in the beginning, I used to take it personally, where it was like I really wanted to fight the person because I felt like they were disrespecting me in front of all these people. And it's like, if you do that, you're going to scare people off. They're never going to want to do business with you. So for me, rule one is you have to pull your pants up. You have to go in there and talk like you have some sense if you're trying to get some real money. If you're just going to fund it like you did when you're selling drugs, and you're just going to go from situation to situation, you could do it however you want to do it. But in this particular situation I'm in, the seat that I'm sitting in, I couldn't bring those street values with me. Now, at the end of the day, of course, I'll never forget what my street values are, but that's that typical situation that Dave Chappelle said, when keeping it real goes wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not interested in keeping it real anymore. I'm not interested in going to jail. I'm interested in feeding my family and trying to create generational wealth. So with me trying to do those two things, that whole street mentality is not the way to be able to do it. Like, you just can't do that. But at the same time, you have to know how to communicate with people. You have to know how to, be respectful. Like, even like with me, I've been in situations where I get emails where I did Fox Business before, right? I did a Fox interview, and that's right around the time that Donald Trump was lost the election. And you wouldn't believe how much hate mail that I got from being on Fox.
Oh, wow.
And like, I'm talking about disrespectful stuff. I don't know if I'm allowed to curse on here, so I'm not going to, but I was getting a lot of hate mail. And in my street life, I'd have been trying to find dudes. I'd have been getting disrespectful back. I'd have been threatening people. I'd have been doing all kind of stuff. And being the CEO of this company, I had to let it go. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. Some of the things that were said to me, I couldn't even sleep that night because I was so mad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and then, I ran into another situation where I was on another show and, they were celebrating Black businesses, and a few people went on my website and they saw different races on my website. And I got a bunch of emails from, Black people saying, yo, how can you be a Black business with other races on your website? And I'm like, listen, I'm not the one that's out there saying, yo, Black business. Like, I'm trying to sell my sneakers and my clothes to everyone. You know what I'm saying? And again, I'm not trying to disrespect anyone, but if you look at me, I'm Black, so I have a Black-owned business. I don't have to say I have a Black-owned business to fit in, because I know a lot of people were just saying that just because it was the in thing to say at the time. So, I never really wanted to try to do that. And it's like, if you think about it from a different perspective, it's like, how would you feel if you saw a white guy on TV saying, yeah, this is a white-owned business? It's like, you're going to be like, you know what, bro? You can keep your white-owned business. And I'm not you understand what I'm saying?
No, there's a double standard in this industry when it comes to that, and us specifically, that a lot of people are afraid to kind of lean into that conversation, but it does exist specifically because we definitely are proponents of ourselves, but not necessarily understanding that sometimes that can. But yeah, it's a conversation. That's a deep level.
Yeah, and I would love to talk to you about it one day too. But like, those are the things that I think about on a regular, because it's like, I sell sneakers and I sell apparel to every race. It's not just Black, but I am a Black person and I own the business, so it's a Black-owned business. So there's just a lot of things that I learned being the CEO that at times it gets difficult. I mean, at first I really loved the business because all I had to do was just be artistic, and I can just, sit down and create. And that's what I love doing. It was the same exact thing when I was a rap artist. I just love creating. But then it's like, you have the other half of the business where you got to do spreadsheets. You got to have meetings. You got to do presentations. You got to do things to impress your investors. So it's like, there's so many different things that comes along with the business that if you're not prepared for that, you can go down the wrong path very quickly and lose everything. So it was a lot of things that I had to learn. And, actually within the last, I want to say 6 months, I had to get a business coach to actually show me how to communicate with people, show me how to watch my tone. And the one thing about me was that being a rap artist, your voice is your instrument. So if I'm saying a word, if I'm passionate about it, I'm going to, go high, I'm going to go low, I'm going to be mid-range. So when I speak, it's the same exact way. If you go into these conferences and you're like, what? Like, are you kidding me? Like, come on, you can't do that. Like, I changed my pitch 3 or 4 times, and that comes across like, oh my God. You know what I mean? Like, he's talking to me like, so it's like, it's weird. It's like, I'm still trying to learn how to communicate properly because I'm used to being able to use my voice as an instrument.
Right.
So, to me, I know that a lot of, Black gentlemen that are out there that are in high positions, they understand what I mean. Because, like, even when I talk to other Black CEOs that's never been in my shoes, when I see them on business calls, they're like very monotone and they're talking to the fellas just like,
the voice. We know.
They don't really want to get too high because they don't want them to think that they're, you know what I mean? So it's like, I can't do that. Like, I have to use my voice. I can't do it. But, again, that's another topic.
Yeah, in my household, we call that the customer service voice.
Absolutely. So you know what I'm talking about. I don't have that. I have a customer service voice. My voice is my voice, and I'm trying to figure it out now.
That's what's up. Sounds like a great chance and opportunity here for take a break. We'll be right back with the homie Darrell Alston. And we're back. We're chatting with my brother, my new brother, my homie now, Darrell Alston, lead designer and CEO of Bungee Oblečení. Be sure to follow the brand on IG at Bungee Brand. So you were talking some great things here before the break, and I want to kind of even lean into kind of how you're getting your money and the philosophy and how you're doing this with this brand, right? So you could have went a couple of different ways with this, but you chose to make it a luxury brand. Like, what made you make that specific decision and make it kind of high-end clothing and apparel?
I think for the most part, everyone probably would think the same thing when they first get into the business. Everyone wants a high-end brand. And the reason for my wanting it was because I was a rap artist. I wore, all those top neck brands, and I wanted to be in that category. You know, and the one thing that's crazy is like after I've done the research that I've done, you know, there's 3 different avenues. You can be low end, you can be mid range, and you can be high end. And it's like no one touches the low end. So if you think about it, if you go to Target or if you go to Walmart and you look at their shoes, I would probably kill that arena. You know what I mean? But it's like I really wanted to be able to see my stuff on my favorite rappers, my favorite actors and actresses, my favorite ball players. So, you know, I ended up going that route. But I'm not taking that low end off the table because I know for a fact that I could throw some designs down there and I can really kill it down there.
Yeah, man.
But the main reason is because I just really wanted to see my stuff on a big platform, and I really wanted to be able to have my stuff exclusive. I wanted people to actually feel like as I remember when I used to rap, I used to walk around and I used to always get taught by my management that you should always let your outfit do the talking for you. Without you coming in, without you saying a word, your aura is supposed to take over the whole room.
Word.
And that's what I started to do. So my outfit, my sneakers, everything used to be so exclusive that when I walked in the room, everyone's eyes would either go to my outfit or to my feet. And it was a good feeling because I'm like, you know, I know for a fact I have these sneakers and I know you've never seen them before. You know what I mean? I know that these sneakers are like 1 of 10. You know what I mean? So I used to enjoy that. So for me, if you look at my sneaker brand, I designed all of my shoes in a way where they look like they're very exclusive.
Yeah.
You know, and I pride myself off of that. Like I want to be able to have a shoe that looks like nothing else that's out there. I don't want to, you know, have any type of similarities to any of the stuff that we have simply because I want to be able to have that authentic, beautiful, artistic shoe. You know, like I'm very passionate about this brand.
And you've done that, right? So I kind of like, you want to go right into that right now. Like you've got some like really dope, out of the box thinking type of designs. Like just how does your mind work kind of coming into that? I think I was watching something. I was like, I think you said, oh, then this is that Stingray. I was like, Stingray? What's going on out here? My man is wild with it. So like, how do you kind of come up with like those, again, that level of design and just kind of that ingenuity when you're putting in stuff into your shoes and apparel?
Well, what I do is the first thing is I come up with the design, I sketch it out. And then after I sketch it out, I do research on like what materials that I can use. And once I actually see something that I like, then I ask the manufacturer, hey, can you get this? And then if they say, yeah, they can get it, they'll send me a bunch of swatches. And I'll be like, oh, well, I like this and I like that. Well, take this and put that there and take this and put this there. And that's pretty much how I piece it all together. And, you know, when you look at some of the shoes that I have, like the Kaleidoscope, for example, or the TNCs, there's like 9 different materials on one shoe. You know what I mean? So it's like no other shoe brand is doing it like that.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You know, they're not putting forth that effort. And for me, I take the extra mile to like try to really make it different. So you're not going to realize what's going on this shoe until you actually pick it up and look at it and be like, oh my God, like look at this. He has ostrich on here. He has he has perforated leather. He has Stingray in the back. And then I turn around and I put like insoles in there that kind of massage your feet when you're walking. Because, you know, like being as though I'm an ex-barber, you know, my ultimate goal is to have shoes that are comfortable. So, you know, when you stick your foot in the shoes, it's like sticking your foot standing on a pillow. Like that's how I really wanted to try to make it. So, you know, I just really enjoy what we do, and I try to be as creative as possible, just like how I used to be when I was a rap artist.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an important step too, because a lot of luxury brands, like, they're not comfortable. I mean, they may look nice, but them shits hurt your feet or whatever the case may be.
Well, the thing that I realized, you know, once I got into this business is like, for example, I have people that hit me up and they'll say, hey, I want you to look at my clothing brand. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then I'm like, yeah, it's high end. And then you look at it and it has this big, rich, fancy name, but then it has like the Gildan tag in the back. So it's like, no, that's not high end. And people do that with shoes as well. Now, the thing that I wanted to break down to you is one of the reasons why those high-end shoes are uncomfortable is because they're using top-of-the-line leathers. You know what I mean? And when you use those top-of-the-line leathers, they're more sturdy. They're not going to bend at your foot. When you look at, and I don't want to throw any names out there, but when you look at those brands that we enjoy the most, they're not real leather. It's like polyurethane leather, it's mesh, it's all these different things that's making your foot more comfortable. But if you start going to the high-end brands, if you're spending $500,000, $700,000 and stuff like that, you're getting real high-powered, authentic materials. And a lot of people would always ask, like, oh man, like, I can't believe this company is charging $900 for a pair of sneakers. And it's like, yo, you don't understand. They spent a whole lot of money on those leathers. They spent a whole lot of money on import exporting. They spent a whole lot of money on, getting these things manufactured, shipped out, all that stuff. Like, all that stuff costs. And the thing of it is, it's crazy, is that the more intricate you get with your shoes, the higher your price is going to keep going.
Of course. Yeah.
So for me, when I first started my brand, it was a high-end brand, and my prices was $300, $400, $500, like with the stingrays and stuff like that. And what happened was, I ended up getting blessed, and I ended up getting a group of people that came in and supported me financially, and it made it where I was able to drop the prices down. So as of right now, you can get some sneakers that are $175 that would really go for $425 just because of materials on them. And I dropped the prices down simply because we were going into Foot Locker. I wanted everyone to be able to afford it, and I wanted people to see what it felt like to have high-end, high-quality sneakers on at a reasonable price.
That's a vibe right there. I'm going to circle back to that Foot Locker thing. Don't think I didn't miss that. And I know that happened for you. I'm going to get there. Give me a second. Yeah. I want to kind of circle back right quick to the name, Albuceni, that's Czechoslovakian. So, do you have some Czech blood in you, bro? Like, where'd you come up and pull that out of the ethos, my guy?
Nah, I don't. I know that some people could be like, come on, man. Like, you're not Czech. What happened was, and I think I blame this on the rapper in me.
Okay.
When I first started the brand, it was just Bungee apparel. That's all it was. And I ended up going to a couple of trade shows, and I went to the trade shows. Every single person had the word apparel behind it, or wardrobe. You know what I mean? It was such and such wardrobe or such and such apparel, and it was just the same thing over and over and over again. And I'm like looking around, I'm like, I feel like everyone's saying my lyrics, like, you know what I mean? Like, I gotta switch it up. So I remember when I left the trade show, I ended up Google searching synonyms for apparel. And, I ended up running into a couple of different things, and, it was just nothing caught me. So I was like, damn, maybe I should try, synonyms in other languages. So I started going through Italian, French. I started going through all these different languages. And then when I got down to the Czech word, I loved how it spelled. And then I put Bungee in front of it, and I'm like, yo, this looks dope.
Yeah.
And then it was like, I didn't know how to say it. I'm like, it's Bungee Oblečení, Bungee, what is it? So I had to Google search how to say it. And then when I Google searched how to say it, I had to keep saying it over and over and over again until it stuck. And then on some of my apparel, it says Albuceni Premiová Bavna underneath of it. I didn't know how to say it, but Premiová Bavna means premium cotton in Czech. So, on some of my sweatshirts, you'll see that. And it was like, I really had to dive in deep to figure out how to pronounce this stuff and how to say it, but it all worked out. And the thing that's funny is, like, sometimes I walk through a mall or something and I have Albuceni on my shirt, and someone will come up and be like, are you Czech? How do you know what that means? Why do you have this on your shirt? And the thing of it is like, you have to understand, Albuceni is a synonym for apparel. Yeah. So when someone from Czechoslovakia sees it, it's almost like us walking down the street with someone that has clothes written across their chest. They're like, well, why do you have that written across your chest? So, I deal with that every once in a while, but that's where I came up with the name.
Nah, man, it's fresh. So I gotta ask, man, is the brand popping out there in the Czech Republic? You know what I mean? Do we get a pop-up shop going out there? What's
I haven't even reached out there, honestly. I haven't done anything out there. Like, as of right now, I basically took the concept from what I used to use when I did music, and I started off in my own hometown, and then I'm just gradually spreading out. So I want to say, like, in the middle of 2021, we really started to get like that national burn, where now people are buying stuff in Chicago, LA, South Carolina. Like, when I send stuff out, it's everywhere now. So I do believe that due to the national exposure, we're really starting to get out there. And I'm really, really looking forward to this Nick Cannon show, because I already know that it's going to get out there. And Nick really blessed me. Like, Nick treated me like I was a star out there. Like, I really appreciated Nick and everything that he did.
Man, that's all fire, man. So you got the Foot Locker thing locked down. You know what I mean? I saw the lookbook for the winter collection. It's all fly, it's all fresh, whatever. So are you now kind of getting into that next space too? You want to do like kind of fashion shows locally, nationally, and things of that nature as well too?
I do. I really want to be able to try to put things together after this COVID stuff, though.
Yeah.
The one thing that's sad about what's going on is that my career is blowing up in the middle of this disaster. So it's like you can't really gauge the love that people have for your brand by having events because people aren't coming out. And it's like, fortunately for me, when I did that first Foot Locker release, we had over 300 people come through in an hour and a half. You know what I mean? Like it was an hour and a half. The line was all the way around the corner. You know what I mean? And I was very excited about the love that I got, but I'm only imagining what it could have been if we didn't have COVID restrictions.
Yeah.
So it's like, if I do a fashion show or if I do whatever it is that we do for the brand, I really want to like blow it up. You know what I mean? Like I have a lot of support from celebrities. I have a lot of support from, the people. And it's like, I want us all to be in one place, but I don't know how that's going to happen. So eventually I'm going to have to figure it out. Like right now, we're in the process of putting together, and I'm speaking a little bit early, but within the next month and a half, I should be on the road and we're going to be doing a barbershop tour. We're calling it the Head to Toe Experience. And basically, we're going to go in and we're going to introduce our brand to the people in the shop. We got a couple celebrities that's going to come with us, and I'm trying to hit barbershops in every state. And the reason why we came up with that concept is because, number one, I was a barber, and that's where I sold all my merchandise.
Yeah.
To this day, I sell more merchandise out of the barbershop than I do anywhere else. So I looked at it where it's like, hey, all these different people that do fashion, they always try to go to the boutiques or they always try to go to the stores to do pop-ups. We're going to do our trunk shows in the high-end barbershops. So if anyone out there has a barbershop, hit us up. We're coming out there. We're bringing celebrities with us. We're going to have a little party. We're going to have, the latest fashion that people aren't going to see yet because we're always going to introduce these shops to all the newest shoes and the newest clothes. And we're going to do our tour. We're going to hit the States.
That's a vibe right there. I'll do some scouting in my local area here. I live in the South Florida area, so
definitely.
I'll see what I can find for you. See what I can scrounge.
Man.
So, listen, my guy. We're running short on time, but I wanted to ask you a couple quick things.
Okay.
It's all love right now. You're kind of on the upward swing, but I like to kind of make sure I tell a little bit of the sunshine and the rain as well too when telling the story, because that really is a story. Yeah. What, if anything, kind of frustrates you about this industry or even design? And do you ever suffer from like design block? Like, damn, I can't figure out how to put this ostrich skin kind of in the right place. Like, kind of like, how do you kind of break through some of those struggles?
I think, well, first of all, the first thing that was like the most irritating for me is like dealing with my investors. Because again, we're talking about people that don't know the street life. They don't really know like what's going on, and they run their business a certain way that I'm not used to. So it was a matter of me trying to get used to them, because at the end of the day, they didn't have to invest in me. I have a tremendous amount of love and respect for them. So I had to figure out how to communicate. And for me, I'm not used to having to keep my mouth shut on certain things. And I noticed that when I open my mouth on everything, it causes a problem. So it's like I had to learn real quick, like, don't bite the hand that feeds you. You know what I mean? So a lot of times when I'm frustrated, I can't voice my frustration. So that is like the most miserable part for me, because it's like I'm not used to holding my tongue. I'm not used to not saying what I feel. So, that's just keeping it all the way a buck with you. And then when it comes time for the design, fortunately, I've never had design block or anything like that. For me, I kind of, again, look at everything like how it was when I created music. It's like I get into a zone and I could sit into when I used to do my music, we would sit in a room with thousands of records. And we would just go through all these different break beats and loops and try to figure out how we can loop up a dope beat for us to write to. And then it's like, I would just feel the vibe of that beat and I would write. I pretty much do my designing the same exact way. It's like, I start off with a canvas and then I just start creating. I don't do it like most creators and most people that I've dealt with in the sneaker industry. They have rules. And what the rules are is, if you create the sneaker, you have to have a story behind it. You know what I mean? Like, and if you create the sneaker, you got to create the sneaker for a certain individual. And it's like, for me, I don't do that. I pretty much, I sit down and I get creative. Like, you know, I try things out. If it doesn't look right, then I try something else and I try something else. And then once I actually get that skeleton of the shoe together, then I start looking up, you know, if I'm in the mood for some exotic skins, I'm going to look up some exotic skins. If I'm in the mood for leathers, I'm going to look up leathers. If I want to see suedes, I'm going to look up suedes. If I want to see, you know, lizard skin, I'm going to look up lizard skin. And then if I decide that I want to put all these up together on one shoe, then I do it. You know what I mean? And that's pretty much how we do. And a lot of times I irritate my manufacturers because, number one, it costs a lot to do that. Number two, it's tedious work. So if you think about something that's only an inch big and that one little inch is lizard skin, and then you have something that's 2.5 inches, you got that as stingray, and then you have like another inch over here at something else. It's a lot of work for a manufacturer. And most times people usually have the first half of the shoe, this material, this half of the shoe, this material, that half of the shoe, that material. And it's like only 1 or 2 different materials. For me, I have 7, 8, 9, 10 different materials on one shoe, along with the insole that's a totally different color and, you know, comfortable. So it's like, you know, I just try to get as creative as possible. And I want people to be able to feel like a superstar when they're walking down the street.
Nah, man. Well, you definitely do that. You know, again, if I can put in a request, I mean, if you've ever come across some Komodo dragon, you know what I mean? let me get the Komodo dragon joints. That'll be what's up.
I got you.
I appreciate it. My man, Darrell Alston. Before we let you get out of here, just kind of like, what do you want to see happen this year for the family? Just what's the ultimate vision? Like, if you can say at the end of this year, X, Y, and Z has happened for the Bungee Oblečení brand.
At the end of the day, I feel like I'll be successful when I can employ people that are just like me. That's the best way I can do it. And there's so many, I met so many talented people that, you know, didn't get the opportunity to go to college for whatever reason, you know what I mean? Or, you know, were in prison for something and they're trying to get their life together. These are people that never get the opportunity to work at Gucci, Louis Vuitton, Nike, Puma, any of that. So I want to be that guy that's going to be able to provide these, you know, opportunities for people. So for me, my ultimate goal is to try to get to that level where I can hire people just like me. And, you know, I feel like that's going to be the most creative. And I feel like when you come in, we're not going to have to go by those same stereotypical roles or rules rather, because, you know, I think for the most part, if you think about it, sneakers, fashion, everything, it's all on the level that it is because of us. You know what I mean? We're very fashionable people and we know how to put it together. And none of these brands that we're talking about has a group of people that are the ones that are putting it together. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, I guarantee you, if we actually had the opportunity to have a brand that had, you know, gotten as big as, you know, one of those brands that I just named, and it's full of people that live this fashion stuff, I guarantee that brand would be incredible. And I'm looking at the opportunities for other people to be able to come in and design with me. Like, it doesn't have to just be my design. I want to be able to bring other people on. So once I get the support from my people, I'll be able to give it back. So that's pretty much where I'm at with it.
I love it. I love it. You heard from the man himself. He is Darrell Alston, CEO, lead designer, all around great dude of the brand Bungee Oblečení. That's all the time we have for today. Make sure you cop some stuff from my dude. Check out bungeebrand.com. Make sure you check them out on IG as well. Make sure to follow Dope Interviews on Twitter at @dope_interviews. Make sure I'm your host, Warren Shaw. Make sure you cop all the stuff coming out of 19 Media Group as well, too. Cop that by listening to it in your headphones. It's going to be a whole vibe for us the rest of this year. And make sure you follow Rich Kid Clothing as well, too. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been another Dope Interview, and we're out.
I'm following Dope Interviews right now.
My man.
Together we stand, divided we never. The vision is one, striving for the better. Working as a team, working toward a dream. It's not even work when the team is the dream. On a united front, we got our own back. A band of brothers to counteract any attack. One heart in fact, forget what the blood say. Dope is what flows in this fam's DNA. So let's do it for the love, give to the max. Listen to opinion, but react to facts. And remember that together with a shh, but separate, just pieces of it. Dope is what flows in this fam's DNA. Dope is what flows in this fam's DNA.
Family represent like a tree with names on it. We're free, no chains on it. Relieved, the pain's gone, I can see. We come together like questions on the quiz. Mojo Flow and Viz, man, you know what it is. And if ignorance is bliss, you're gonna hate this lesson. Organized intellect like a tropical depression. My symbol is the cross, a mic and ghost peppers. Cause I'm just a black sheep growing up to be a shepherd. Moonlighting as a weapon to protect the children. Every brother is a father, dynasties we're building. Max, J and K, Bay, and Isaiah, next level of the family foundation, understand me?